Just give me a yell as soon as you're ready for me to start. My name is Adrian Crenshaw. I go by the handle Iron Geek online, and my presentation is on network printer security, or how to hack a network printer. Now, we're going to keep this fairly informal. If you have a question during the session, just raise your hand, get my attention. I'll try to answer it along the lines, because there may be a few things that I neglect to tell you that I should. First, we're going to start off with, why would you want to hack a network printer? I mean, it's a printer, what can you do with it? Well, it's more than just dumpster diving. You used to think of printer security from the standpoint of what pages people throw out, what you could pull out of a dumpster to find information about a corporation or organization. But now, there's a lot more things you can do with printers since they've become network enabled. First of all, network printers are incredibly common. They've gotten cheaper and cheaper. You can get consumer models just for sitting on your desk at your home. They're fairly powerful. We're talking built-in OSs, full IP stacks, multiple different stacks like IPX, AppleTalk, and so forth. In some cases, like the Ricoh 7s, they actually run a version of NetBSD on them. A lot of sensitive data is sent to a printer. People may think a lot about how they store the data on the network and make sure it's secure and communications are secure in general. However, if you actually be on the LAN, there's a lot of sensitive data people send to the printer and never think about it because they don't think about printers being a possible inroads to being hacked. And finally, lack security. If people don't think about something, they have a tendency not to think about the security of it, and problems pop up. Now, there are several topics we're going to cover in this presentation, assuming I don't run over time, and I'm relying on other people to give me a yell whenever I start running over time. First of all, we're going to talk about different network printing protocols. We're going to talk about different languages, both page description languages and job control language. Finding printers on a network. If you can't find them, you can't do anything with them. Controlling printers. Simple printer tricks, mostly just fun stuff to give you some ideas of the concepts and give you something to play with. Using network printers as file and web servers. Sniffing and reprinting print jobs. And simple scripts in Perl, PHP, and PJL language. First of all, I'm going to show you pictures of a couple of different common network printers or network printer servers. These are two external JetDirect boxes. This one hooks up via USB, this one hooks up via a parallel port. These are internal that you actually plug into an HP printer. Plug into the Ethernet jack and you should be online. You can configure them to get the IP address via DHCP or whatnot. Generally speaking, you find the IP address if you have a local printer by hitting a little test button. This little 170X, it'd be right about there, a little test button on the back you can press to actually pull up the diagnostic sheets. Internals, you generally have to press the right information keys on the printer itself to be able to pull up the IP address and other settings. Now, HP is not the only network printer vendor, obviously, but they're one of the most popular, and a lot of other people follow suit. For instance, a lot of stuff I'm going to tell you you can do with a JetDirect, you could also do with a Ricoh 7, and there's other network printer vendors like Tektronix, Brevard, Epson. Netgear and Linksys both make their own little external boxes you can hook up. Linksys I know uses IPP, and I don't believe they use the RAW port. We'll go into that more in a second. And there's a lot of other network printer vendors that you might want to look into. Most of my research, because of what I have around and available that I've looked into, is on JetDirects and Ricoh 7 printers. There's another guy out there online that does a lot of looking into, his name is Elite Wolf. He does a lot of looking into Tektronix. I'll have a link for him later on if you look at my webpage on network printer hacking. First of all, there's different printer protocols you'll want to be aware of. These are basically the network printer protocols that your print server, your like Windows or Linux, rather than CUPS print server, or your machine itself will use to talk to the little onboard computer inside the printer. One of the more common ones is LPD, which stands for Line Printer Daemon. This is common in the Unix world, but you can use this in Windows also if you install the Unix services for Windows. that communicates on port 515 TCP. IPP, which stands for Internet Printing Protocol. Once again, if you got CUPS in Linux, no problem to print to that. In Windows, no problem to print to that. That communicates over port 631, and it's based on HTTP. A little bit more on that in a bit. And one of the most common is called JetDirect, sometimes called AppSock, sometimes called RAR, and sometimes called PDL data stream. It communicates on port 9100. A lot of my tutorials will be on that because Rico 7s and HP JetDirects all use that port. The Hijacker toolset uses that port, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. To give you an idea what these protocols look like if you looked at them in plain text, right here is what LPD looks like. This is basically a dump from Etherrail. I found the print job going across the network, right-clicked on it, said follow stream, and this is what we have. At the top, you'll see a little bit of information about who sent the job. You see these @ symbols in PJL, printed job language. These are commands that are sent to control how the job is printed. I'll give you more details on that in a second. You see this Adobe PostScript Adobe 3.0? That's telling it what kind of file you have attached or what kind of data stream you have attached and how it's going to print it. That's basically the actual description of how the page is supposed to look. IPP, as you can see, HTTP based. This is the basic way in which it's sent to the printer. IPP is, I believe, the main protocol that CUPS uses, but it can use the other ones as well. Then there's RAR. RAR is probably the simplest of all those protocols. As you can see, we just start off with PJL commands. Then here's our PostScript section. That's the actual thing that's to be printed. Now, there's different languages that a printer uses. First of all, we should talk about page description languages. The two most common are PCL, Printer Command Language from Hewlett-Packard, and PostScript from Adobe. Then there's job control language. Job control language is used, at least in HP printers and a lot of other printers, to control how the print job is done. Page description basically tells it, okay, I want the graphics to be designed like this, I want this text here, I want all this here. Job control language tells you, I want to print out this many sheets, I want it stapled, I want it duplex, I want all this other stuff about it. As well as a lot of other things you may not expect. Here's an example of what a PCL file might look like if I open it up in Notepad++. Anybody that's doing any kind of file editing of Unix files and Windows files at the same time, but they're doing it from a Windows workstation, I highly recommend Notepad++ because it doesn't mess up Unix file line returns. Here's an example of what PostScript looks like, and it's way too small. If you could read that, it's a lot more readable. It starts off with PS Adobe 3.0, some information about the print job, and when you get down further, it's basically a description of how the page is supposed to look and tells it how to draw the graphics, how to put the text on the page. Now here's an example of PGL. PGL starts off with the escape character in ASCII, with more details on that later, along with this to tell it, okay, we want to switch personalities if you're in a personality. A personality is basically what kind of page description language you're using at the time, either PCL or PostScript or whatnot. And then it sets various things, like this particular command, PGL job name, just sets the name of the job. Auto tray and change, it's going to select its tray. It's going to set it to be duplexed. It's going to bind it along the short edge, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. This sets various bits of information, like the resolution the printer's going to print at. And then finally, it tells it what language it's going to be in this case PCL. Then the actual page description part of the print job starts off. All these files are actually things I could, if I wanted to, just replay to a printer later on. And we'll go into details of that later on. But that's just the basics of printer job language. Now, before you can actually mess around with printers, you got to find out where they are. Now, if you have physical access to one, most of them, either in the menu system or using a test button, you can find out the IP address. But I'm also going to show you how to find some on the network using Nmap, some SNMP tools. And SNMP stands for Security Not My Problem. Or at least that's the running joke. Simple Network Management Protocol, I believe. And most modern day network printers seem to have it enabled. And it's a great way to go out there and find out what a printer is, find out what type of hardware it is, and find out a lot of information with very little problem. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to do a little Google hacking for network printers that people have at various facilities and they somehow linked up to the web page, and now everybody in the world will know about it if they do a search. First of all, in-mapping for printers. In-map space dash uppercase A, that tells it to do an OS scan, as well as do a version detection scan on the ports it finds open. By the way, don't do this on versions of in-map previous to, I believe, 3.90. It'll actually print out garbage print jobs. I'll give you some more details on that later. But here's some interesting ports that are opened up on this particular JetDirect box. We have the FTP port, because you can FTP print jobs that are already constructed to this particular JetDirect printer, and that's common for a lot of printers. Telnet for going in and configuring it. Port A is open for administration over the web. 280, which is another port it uses. This particular JetDirect box is a little older and it uses a Java applet that serves up via its little web daemon for controlling it. You see it has, oh great, if I remember right, it has LPD and as well as IPP open and the JetDirect or RAW port open. And that's the information you found out. Seeing this information, you can be pretty much assured what kind of printer it is. Also, there's some options you can throw to InMap. If it tells you who the MAC address belongs to, and it says the MAC address belongs to the vendor Hewlett-Packard or Ricoh Savin, you have a good idea that what you just InMapped was a printer. But the big clue is these particular ports are open, and it's taken a wild guess that's HP embedded. My understanding the JetDirects actually run a version of I hate the fact that it's skipping my mind right now. VxWorks. And the Ricoh Savin, my understanding, is running a version of NetBSD. In mapping for printers, here's some of the UDP ports are open. You notice that port 157 UDP is open. This is basically